Hi, my name is Ken, and I'm a student at the most famous cooking school in the world, Le Cordon Bleu, just a few blocks from the Eiffel Tower. Cordon Bleu Cuisine and Pastry School was founded in Paris in 1895. It owes its name to the ancient and prestigious Royal Order of the Holy Spirit, known as the Order of the Cordon Bleu. As a result, the name Cordon Bleu became synonymous with culinary excellence. Like the students, you too will benefit from the chef's experience, nearly a century of experience in teaching gastronomy. The program is organized in the form of complete menus, from easy to prepare to the more elaborate recipes which will take you progressively towards discovering the subtle nuances of traditional haute cuisine.
Hello, my name is Joanne Hagery, and I'm here at the Cordon Bleu Cooking School in Paris studying French cooking. I'm a Norwegian who lives in New Orleans, Louisiana, where I was extremely influenced by the French cooking. Therefore, I decided to come to Paris and study it at Le Cordon Bleu. Today, we're going to look at soups which are cooked in famous French restaurants and also in the province. We will now look at the recipe for onion soup. This recipe has been prepared by Chef Bernard.
To make
the gratinade onion soup, start by making a beef broth. Put 3 quarts of cold water in a large saucepan. Since leeks grow in sandy soil, cover them by making cuts down the length of the green leaves. This makes it easy to rinse out all of the sand. After rinsing the leek under cold running water, add it to the pot of water. Also, add 2 clean celery branches and 2 or 3 peeled carrots. Then stick 3 or 4 cloves into a whole peeled onion and put it in the pot. Next, take 2 or 3 whole cloves of garlic, which are left unpeeled but crushed with your hand or the side of a large knife. Then add a small bunch of parsley torn in half, some fresh thyme, and a few whole bay leaves. And of course, do not forget the whole peppercorns and salt. Add the pieces of beef. If oxtail is not available, it can be replaced by another cut of stew beef. Cover the pot and bring the water to a boil on high heat. Reduce the heat and allow it to simmer for 2 hours. French onion soup is traditionally made with oxtail broth, but you can use a standard beef stock to get an equally good result. Beef broth. 3 quarts cold water, 1 leek, 2 stalks celery, 2 to 3 carrots, 1 onion, 4 cloves, 3 cloves garlic crushed, 1 small bunch parsley, 3 sprigs thyme, 2 bay leaves, 20 to 30 whole peppercorns, salt, 2 pounds oxtail or stew beef. 1 pound onions finely sliced, 1 bouquet garni, green leek leaves, celery, parsley, bay leaves, thyme, 3 tablespoons unsalted butter, 1 loaf French bread, baguette if possible, 4 tablespoons all-purpose flour, 1 1/4 cups dry white wine, 2 cups shredded Gruyere cheese. The onions in the soup must be finely sliced. First, peel them and cut them vertically in half. Then, place them on your cutting board with the flat side down. Slice the onions very thinly, but be careful with your fingers. Now prepare the bouquet garni. Use some well-rinsed green leek leaves as an envelope. The inside of the bouquet garni consists of a small celery branch, some parsley stems, 1 or 2 bay leaves, and some branches of thyme. Wrap this securely with a few more leek leaves.
pour pas que tous les ingrédients se sauvent dans la sauce.
Tie the bundle tightly with string to hold it all together. This makes it easy to remove later, once it has done its job of flavoring the soup. If you are a perfectionist like the chef,
Voilà.
trim the ends to obtain a neat little bundle. Now the chef will sweat the onions. Put a little bit of unsalted butter into another large saucepan. Melt the butter on medium heat and add the finely sliced onions. Stir them well and let them sweat,
Ces oignons,
or cook gently without coloring,
en les remuant
stirring them from time to
de
time.
temps en temps. Voilà. Pour les cuire un petit peu. Pendant ce temps-là, on va
Now make the
préparer
toasted
du
croutons,
pain
which will be
grillé
baked
pour
in the
faire
soup
gratiner
before serving.
notre soupe.
Use a serrated bread knife to slice the French bread into half-inch slices. Always use a sawing motion to make a clean cut. Arrange these on a pastry sheet and toast them in a 400-degree oven. Although a French baguette is best, it can be replaced by another crusty bread. Meanwhile, do not forget to stir the onions well as they cook. Use a wooden spatula and scrape the bottom and corners of the pot well to prevent the onions from burning. Once the croutons are golden brown, remove them from the oven. When all of the moisture has cooked out of the onions, you are ready to add the flour.
On va ajouter la farine.
Add it all at once and stir it in well. Cook the onions and flour together for a few minutes, stirring constantly.
Remuant bien.
Do not allow the onions to brown too much. They should stay blonde since overcooked onions have a bitter flavor. At this point, it is important to scrape the bottom well so that you do not risk burning the flour. Now, add the dry white wine. The wine serves to deglaze
Bien
the bottom of the
déglacer le
pot.
fond de la casserole.
To deglaze means to boil off and save the flavorful sediment that has formed on the bottom. Allow the wine to boil for a few minutes.
On va laisser
This
bouillir un
removes
petit
some
peu
of
le
the
vin
acidity
pour
from the
retirer
wine.
l'acidité.
Meanwhile, strain the beef broth that you made earlier.
Maintenant, on va ajouter le bouillon, les 2
After a few
litres et demi
minutes
de
of
bouillon
boiling the wine,
que l'on a passé
add
au
about 2
chinois.
quarts of the strained beef broth.
Le
Also,
bouquet
put in the
garni que l'on
bouquet
avait préparé
garni.
tout à l'heure.
Stir the soup well and let it simmer on low heat for about 20 minutes.
Et
Cover.
on va laisser bouillir une vingtaine de minutes, un petit bouillon.
Now preheat the broiler. After 20 minutes, taste the soup and adjust the seasoning if necessary. Arrange the oven-proof serving bowls on a pastry sheet
Alors, soit
and
des
ladle
bols
the hot
individuels,
soup
des
into the
bols,
bowls.
plus importants.
It can be served either in individual bowls or in one large oven-proof soup bowl. You could even use a large soufflé dish. Be sure to leave room in the bowls for the croutons and shredded cheese.
Bon, allez, reste là, là je suis sûr.
Pour le dernier. Les croutons dessus.
Then float 2 or 3 croutons on the surface in each bowl. Of course, the number of croutons will depend on both the size of the croutons and the size of the bowls.
2-3 croutons suivant la grosseur. Le fromage.
Top the croutons with a small handful of shredded Gruyere or Swiss cheese. Then gratinez the soup under the broiler in the oven. When the cheese is lightly browned, remove the bowls carefully from the oven. Gratined onion soup is very popular in France, especially in Paris, where it is served late at night in traditional bistros. It is best in winter, followed by a dozen fresh oysters. Toasted croutons topped with melted cheese make a nice accompaniment. This soup and the croutons can be prepared separately in advance. Reheat the soup, assemble together with the croutons, and gratiner at the last minute.
We'll now look at the recipe for mussel soup, which is accompanied by cheese straws.
La farine, le sel, l'eau.
You need
Et le beurre
flour,
fondu.
salt, water, and melted butter for the puff pastry.
Tous ces ingrédients serviront à faire le feuilletage. Ensuite, on a les moules, 1 kg de moules. Pour
For
cuire
the
ces
soup,
moules, on
you
aura
will need
besoin
mussels,
d'ingrédients
which will be cooked with parsley, thyme, bay leaves, garlic, shallots, and whole peppercorns.
qui nous serviront à cuire les moules avec le vin blanc.
Dry white wine will be
Ensuite, on
used to
aura
cook the
une
mussels.
garniture avec le beurre
Then the
et la
soup will be
farine.
thickened with a roux
Et ensuite,
made of butter and flour. It will be finished with chervil, chimes, and a little bit of celery, which will be cooked in butter.
Un petit peu de branches de céleri qui seront fondues au beurre.
Cheese straws. 1½ cups all-purpose flour, 3/4 cup cake flour, 1 teaspoon salt, 2/3 to 3/4 cup cold water, 2 tablespoons unsalted butter melted, 14 tablespoons unsalted butter, 2 shallots finely sliced, 3 tablespoons unsalted butter, 4 sprigs thyme, 2 bay leaves, 1 small bunch parsley, 20 whole peppercorns, 2 cloves garlic, 2 pounds mussels cleaned, 1 cup dry white wine, 3 stalks celery, 1 tablespoon unsalted butter, 1 egg lightly beaten, 1 cup shredded Gruyere or Parmesan cheese, 2 tablespoons unsalted butter, 4 tablespoons all-purpose flour, water, 2/3 cup crème fraîche or heavy cream, 2 tablespoons chives, coarsely chopped.
Alors la farine en fontaine sur la table.
Start by making the puff pastry. Pour the flour onto a cool work surface. Make a large well in the center. Put the salt, water, and melted butter into the well, and mix with your fingertips until the salt dissolves.
Alors on va légèrement faire fondre le sel dans l'eau, que le sel soit bien fondu dans l'eau. Ensuite, avec un râteau-tout,
Use a plastic
mélanger
pastry
l'ensemble,
scraper to incorporate
en
the
essayant de
flour,
pas trop
starting
pétrir
from
la
the
pâte
inside
en
of the circle.
plastique. Alors, cette
Be
pâte
careful
qui
not to
fait-
allow the liquid to
ça
leak
s'appelle
out
la
of the well.
déforme du feuilletage.
Do not work the dough too much, or it will become elastic. This initial stage of the puff pastry dough is known in France as the détrempe. Always use a cutting motion with the pastry scraper, and stop mixing as soon as the flour is incorporated. Flatten the détrempe gently, put the scraps into the middle, and gently form a ball.
Au milieu, on
Wrap
forme
the
un
dough
bol.
in a lightly floured dish towel or wax paper and refrigerate it for about 30 minutes.
Une demi-heure après,
30 minutes later,
un petit peu de farine.
place the dough on the floured work surface and flour the top lightly. Roll out the dough into the shape of a cross,
L'étage
leaving it mounded in the center.
sur les quatre côtés, en gardant plus de
After
pâte au
forming the
centre.
butter into an even square about 3/4 of an inch thick, place the square
On
of
va
butter
mettre
on
ce
the
morceau de
mound
beurre maintenant au centre.
and
Alors,
fold
on
up the
garde beaucoup plus
flaps
de pâte au centre
like an envelope
pour qu'il y ait à peu près
to
autant de
completely
pâte
seal
de
in the
beurre
butter.
dessus. Vu qu'on va replier la pâte et
The
qu'on
ends
va
of
la
all 4
superposer
flaps should
dessus.
overlap in the center.
Et comme ça,
This
il y a à peu
way,
près
with the mound
moitié
underneath
pâte.
and the
Le beurre est
overlapped
bien
flaps on
enfermé
top,
au milieu de la pâte.
there will
De
be
la
an equal thickness of dough above and below the butter.
En égalisant. Alors, la détrempe
Lightly
plus
tap
le
the
beurre
top of the
mouillé
dough with a
a
rolling
maintenant
pin
un
to
pâton
seal the
feuilletage.
edges and to distribute the butter evenly inside the dough.
Pour le rendre feuilleté.
In French pastry
Alors là,
terminology,
le
the
carré,
name for the
on
dough
le
at this
prend ensemble
stage
comme on veut, ça
is
n'a pas d'importance,
pâton.
c'est la première fois. Et maintenant,
Now
en
the
roulant
chef will roll
avec
out the
le
dough and
pour que la
fold it
pâte
to
et le
form the
beurre
flaky
s'allongent
layers.
bien en même temps.
Flour the work surface and the
En
pâton
ayant toujours un
and
petit
roll
peu de
the
farine
dough
sur
gently
la
into a
pâte
neat
dessous,
rectangle.
pour que ça glisse
Always
bien.
keep the work surface lightly floured
Alors,
so
on va
that the dough can
l'allonger
slide
à peu près la
easily.
longueur du rouleau.
Roll it evenly to approximately the length of the rolling pin, or about 2 feet. Then fold the dough evenly in 3. The dough will be folded several times and must always be folded in exactly the same way. Brush off the excess flour to prevent it from drying out the dough. Once it is folded in three, gently seal the folds with the rolling pin and even out the thickness. Each time you roll and fold the dough like this, you are giving it one turn. Now give the square 1/4 turn, leaving the folds on the sides. Always keep the seam on the same side. Then roll out the dough again to give it a second turn. Roll it to the same length and thickness as before and fold it in three.
Même longueur, même épaisseur. De nouveau en 3. On colle.
Flatten it and mark it gently with 2 fingertips, indicating that it has been given 2 turns. Flour the dough lightly, wrap it in wax paper or parchment paper, and refrigerate it for at least 20 minutes. This is to harden the butter and prevent it from melting and leaking out of the dough. Meanwhile, prepare the mussels. Peel 1 or 2 shallots, depending on their size. Cut them in half, lengthwise.
Donc, ces échalotes émincées.
Lay the flat side down and slice them finely.
Finement, on va faire suer.
Put the sliced shallots into a large saucepan with some butter. Stir them with a wooden spoon and allow them to sweat or cook gently without coloring.
On aura un petit peu de thym.
The mussels will be seasoned with thyme branches, 1 or 2 bay leaves,
Du persil.
parsley
Alors, les
stems
gueules
and leaves,
et l'ensemble du persil. Et
whole
un peu de
peppercorns,
poivre en grains. 1 ou 2 gousses d'ail.
and
Alors,
1 or 2
maintenant,
cloves
on va
of garlic.
ajouter nos
Once
moules
the shallots
et
are well
nettoyer
sweated,
et laver.
add the mussels, which have been scraped and washed several times. Add the thyme, bay
Le reste de
leaves,
nos-
garlic, and parsley.
On va ajouter le vin
Pour the
blanc,
white wine over the mussels,
250 grammes de vin blanc. On va mettre un peu, quelques
and throw in some whole peppercorns. Cover the pan and bring the wine to a boil.
pour faire ouvrir les moules.
Now back to the puff pastry, which has already been given 2 turns. Always start with the seam on the same side and begin to roll out the dough for its 3rd turn. Flour it lightly so it can roll out easily.
Toujours un petit peu de farine pour que ça glisse bien.
Fold it in 3 and don't forget to brush off the excess flour and to mark the number of turns with your fingertips. Wrap it and put it back in the fridge for at least 20 minutes. Repeat this process, giving 1 or 2 turns at a time until the dough has been given 6 turns.
On va tirer l'excédent de farine avant de plier. On va remuer
Stir
bien.
the mussels well.
Les moules commencent à
As you can
s'ouvrir.
see, they are beginning to open. Recover them and let them open completely. That'll give you plenty of time to chop the celery finely. Once all of the mussels have opened, pour them into a colander and allow them to drain. Be sure to keep the cooking liquid, since you will need it for the soup later. Put the chopped celery into a saucepan with a little butter.
À l'étuvée qu'on appelle, c'est-à-dire
Cover it with parchment paper and allow it to cook gently without coloring. Roll the dough into a large rectangle 1/8 of an inch thick.
on va dorer
Trim
la
the edges
surface
with a
de
large knife to form
la pâte
straight
avec
sides.
un œuf battu.
Beat a whole egg with a fork.
pinceau.
Brush some egg glaze onto the surface of the dough. Sprinkle it lightly with salt and pepper and top it with shredded or grated Parmesan or
Sur la
Gruyère
dorure,
cheese.
légèrement
Gently
salé
press the
poivré.
cheese into the dough with the rolling pin.
Et ensuite, on coupe nos alouettes.
Cut the dough with a large knife, first
Alors,
into
on peut les
wide
couper plus ou
bands,
moins longues, suivant
then
ce qu'on
across
veut faire
into
avec.
strips.
Alors, sur une plaque à pâtisserie maintenant, légèrement grasse,
Prepare a lightly
ensuite,
buttered
mouillée,
baking
une
sheet.
douzaine de l'eau dans un récipient.
Sprinkle it very lightly with
Voilà,
cool
légèrement
water.
mouillé.
The
pour
water
coller la
serves
pâte.
to hold the dough in place on the sheet.
Et ensuite, on va disposer nos allumettes.
Arrange the strips on the sheet
Alors, maintenant qu'on a mis
and
nos
refrigerate them
allumettes
for at
sur
least
plaque,
10 minutes before baking.
L'idéal, c'est de les mettre une dizaine de minutes au frigidaire et ensuite dans le four à 220 degrés, 12-15 minutes. Voilà. Alors, dans le frigidaire à
Preheat
reposer,
the oven to 450 degrees. Now remove the mussels from their shells and throw away the shells.
voilà nos moules.
Gently decant the cooking liquid to remove any sand that has settled to the bottom.
Si vous voulez voir, toujours un peu de sable.
To make the roux,
Dans notre beurre fondu,
melt the butter in a saucepan on low heat. Once it is melted, add the flour and whisk well. Cook for about 2 minutes on medium heat, whisking constantly. Do not allow the roux to color. Add the strained cooking liquid and whisk well to prevent lumps from forming. Add enough water to obtain about 7 to 8 cups of soup. Bring it to a boil and allow it to simmer for 15 to 20 minutes. Then add the creme fraiche or heavy cream and bring it back to a boil. Remove the boiling soup from the heat, and after draining the excess butter out of the cooked celery, add the celery, then the mussels and chives.
notre ciboulette.
After removing the feuilletage from the oven, display it like this, and bon appétit.
Chef Jackie Martin will now show us how to do the soup Julienne d'Arblay.
It is a leek and potato soup. 4 tablespoons unsalted butter, 2 leeks, white part only, 1½ pounds potatoes, 1 bouquet garni, green leek leaves, bay leaf, thyme, parsley stems, celery, 6 cups water, salt, freshly ground pepper, 4 ounces carrots, julienne, 4 ounces turnips, julienne, 4 ounces green leek leaves, julienne, 1 cup creme fraiche or heavy cream, chervil. The chef's assistant will wash the potatoes. Then we'll separate the green part of the leek from the white and set it aside. Trim off the root end and cut the leek in 2, lengthwise. Slice the white part of the leek. Be sure to wash the vegetables well to remove any traces of soil. In a large saucepan, melt 4 tablespoons of butter. Do not allow it to heat too much or the butter will color. Add the sliced leek and cook over medium heat until soft but not colored. This is known as sweating in cooking terminology and is done to exude the juice from the vegetables. In the meantime, the assistant has cut the potatoes into pieces and is going to add them to the leeks. Then, pour over 6 cups of cold water and season with salt and just a little pepper. Cover the saucepan with a lid, bring to a boil, and cook gently for about 25 minutes. Now the chef will prepare the julienne of vegetables. Julienne refers to ingredients which are cut into matchsticks. Here approximately 2 inches long and 3/16 of an inch wide. Watch how he does it with the green part of the leeks. Discard the tough outer leaf. Cut each in 2-inch pieces. Slice lengthwise in halves and then into matchsticks. For the carrots, cut into 2-inch pieces. Remove a piece from one side of the carrot so it will be stable on the work surface and slice thinly, like this. Then cut these slices into matchsticks. For the turnip, pare it into a square shape. Slice thinly and proceed as for the carrots. Well, the soup has started to boil. Now we will let it cook for about 25 minutes. We want the leek and potatoes to be well cooked. Put the carrots in a saucepan, cover with cold water, season with salt, and bring to a boil and cook for 2 minutes. This bouquet garni will be used to add flavor to the soup. The carrots have now cooked for 2 minutes. We are going to add the turnips and cook for 2 to 3 minutes longer. The potatoes and leeks are now tender. Remove the bouquet garni and then puree the soup. The food mill we are going to use has an advantage over the food processor because it will retain the fibers of the leeks. The julienne of carrots and turnips are cooked, and now we can drain them. We are going to cook the julienne part of the leeks in this saucepan of salted boiling water. Now to puree the soup. After it has been pureed, put it into a large saucepan and bring it to a boil again. When it comes to a boil, take some of it and put it into this small bowl. Then measure out about 1 cup of crème fraîche or heavy cream. And whisk it into the small bowl with the hot soup. Stir this back into the boiling soup. Ladle the soup into a soup tureen. To avoid the soup dripping from the ladle, just dip the base of the ladle into the soup once before transferring it to the tureen. Sprinkle the julienne of vegetables onto the soup and decorate with a few leaves of chervil.
Well, I hope everyone will be able to enjoy these delicious soup recipes on a cold winter evening. They're exclusive from the Cordon Bleu Cooking School in Paris.
And don't forget, we also have 7 other cassettes which contain the most famous recipes of the Cordon Bleu Cooking School in Paris.